party alright?
So essentially, I wanted to make a quick video to follow up on this really good blog post about how to take a Unity game for the web player and embed it into Squarespace. I really like using Squarespace for a lot of reasons, but mostly because e-commerce is very nice with it. So what would be even better is if we could get our games to show up in the blog. This breaks it down pretty well, so I'm just going to go through it real quick on how to do this. Essentially, you want to start by going to Unity and exporting out your game. So I made a quick little demo game here. I'm going to go up to File, Build Settings. I'm going to pick Web Player, and over here I'm going to click the Build option. Now make sure you add your scene to it. If not, it'll just do whatever scene you're currently on. So let's just call this one Rollerball for now. Rollerball. And what I'm doing here is saving it to the Dropbox folder. The tutorial talks about hosting the files on Dropbox, and this is a good way to have your public Unity game file in one easy location to manage. So I'm doing just that. I've created a folder in Dropbox. It's in the public folder. It's in a games folder, and I'm calling it Rollerball. Save. So this is going to compile it. It generates the web page. It generates the game file. So I'm going to go to Dropbox real quick and take a look at it. Here's Dropbox. Here's public. And we're going to just verify that it's all in place. So if I double click this, I've got the Unity player loaded. My game starts up real quick and smooth. So this is good. That's step one. Step two is going to be getting this player into Unity. So, getting this player into Squarespace. So essentially, let's follow this tutorial a little further. It says, grab this JavaScript file. So you can click to download that. You can see I already have it. So I'm going to use my copy of it here. And it says, copy that into Dropbox. It's publicly accessible. So there it is in Dropbox. So that's step one. Scroll down a bit. Here's a chunk of code. It says, inside Squarespace 6, which is current Squarespace, add a new code block of HTML. So we'll take that whole block. Squarespace. I'm in the editor for a new post. I'm going to add a code block, which is right here. I'm going to highlight it, get rid of it, and paste in that chunk of code. Now the thing is, this code needs some editing first. Let's back out of here just for a second. I'm going to drop that code chunk that we get from the tutorial page right into my editor, and we'll do a little bit of editing. So let's update the links. As the tutorial states, we have to go in here and update these kind of links here, and there's 3 of them to watch out for, and they're highlighted right down here. So URL path of the JavaScript file, that's this file we just copied right into Dropbox. So we'll copy the public link. We'll go up to here. It says script, language JavaScript, and we're going to paste right over the top of it. We can even paste this into our browser just to make sure it works properly, and that looks good. So the second one says URL path of the image shown before. So that's kind of a nice splash screen. We're going to create that in just a second. But let's do the third one, URL path of the Unity file. And that's this file right here, unity3d. So copy public link. And right here, now don't snip off the beginning of it where it says JavaScript. Load after click. You need to actually get just the address in between those two single quotes. So that's 2 of 3 things. That's looking pretty good so far. So let's generate an image real quick to be our placeholder image for this thing. So I'm just going to be real lazy about it and just do a screenshot real quick. And we'll play the game. I'll roll to kind of a neat little spot. Yeah, it's kind of interesting right here. So screenshot key with Mac. Shift Command 4. That generates our screenshot, and we'll just call that splash. We could even chuck that in Photoshop if we want to create something real quick. And I suggest putting something on your splash screen too, because it's not clear to the user initially that they need to click that picture to start the game. So we'll just add something to it real quick. I figure just some plain text will do it for now. Knock that down a little bit. Let's give that something interesting. Let's give it a little bit of motion blur to it. That could be kind of cool. Well, let's give it a radial blur. Yeah, that's pretty neat. We'll go with that. and then we'll call this rollerball. And we'll give it a little bit more of an interesting font. You know, nothing too crazy. We're just doing a demo here. That works. Alright, that's pretty cool. Rollerball. And we'll have it bleed over the sides a little bit just to piss off designers. And then we'll go ahead and just write a little message here that says click to play. Click to play. And we'll add a little bit of distinctness to that so it stands out. And just a little bit of yellow into it. And pretty little trees, a little yellow. There we go. Well, actually that looks pretty horrible. So let's go ahead and hit it with just some contrast. We're just zooming right through this thing. You know, God forbid you go live with this kind of stuff. Alright, so now the point is, we have this image set. We want to save this into Dropbox because it's going to be a publicly accessible thing. So public, in my case, games, rollerball. This is the same directory I'm using for the rest of my files just to keep things easy in my mind. So splash.jpg. I'm going to save that. Cool. So let's get out of Photoshop. We don't need that. We can close Unity down for a minute. And so here's our last file that we have to update. Like the tutorial says, we need to use the image path, which is found here, and replace this right here, the source. Okay, so now we have all the chunks of code in place. We're going to copy the whole brick, bring it back into Squarespace. We're going to insert a code block into our blog post. Code block. Code block. Paste that. Save it. Now this says the block contents embedded in your code will only render on the front of your site. No, let's not worry about that right now. This is an extra block here. We're just going to chuck that in the trash can. And we'll just remind people, click the picture, play, roll. Cool. Alright, so there we have it. Let's go ahead and save and publish that and see what we got. So I'm going to click here to go right to it on the site. And what we're going to see is we've got our post, all good. This is looking good. If we single click it, it's going to load the Unity game engine. And then here's the part that's a little buggy. You have to click it again to lock your controls into the screen. So that's a little bit of a pitfall. I'm thinking of actually coaching my users to do that. Might be a good idea. And there's one other thing I'll bring up real quick too. I'm really liking how this looks in the player and the blog and all that's working well. The one thing that's a little bit buggy with some of the Squarespace stuff I've noticed is that if you go to the page where it shows the individual images, like if you were to turn this into a product, for example, I can't show an example of it real quick, but anything that overrides the keyboard settings so that it captures input, you gotta watch out for. So some of the slideshows on Squarespace, Squarespace templates. Let's just show you an example real quick. We'll actually override some of the keys in Unity, so you want to watch out for that. This may have it. Something like this, where you can use the keyboard to flip through. Yeah, these will conflict with the Unity stuff, so I'm actually starting to dig through the templates now to go find out where exactly to disable those kind of things, because that'd be helpful for Unity stuff. So hopefully this is helpful to you. Definitely check out this guy's blog. It's a great walkthrough. It's very concise. Works well. Alright, peace out.